Welcome. Welcome to our Leap of Consciousness show. I am Annie Kalat-Carr, and with me is my co-host, colleague, and dear friend, Ashley Lee. And today we're going to expound upon navigating with inner guidance. This is a key component to creating peace in your life. So let's get started.
We are so excited to be here with you today. So really, what is inner guidance? Inner guidance is the collaboration of your inner boardroom and all the members. That's aspects of ourselves working together towards a common goal or intention. And we had so much fun making this graphic, really describing the elements or aspects or members really in our inner boardroom. That's, in our mind, in our hearts, in our whole being. It really brings in all the energetic bodies that we are, right? Our physical, our emotional, our mental, and our spiritual. And inside that, we have this inner boardroom. And we really loved this graphic because, first of all, it's a round table. And maybe not a square, rectangle, or oval table. So that means that every member, right, has an opportunity to speak up, share, give its opinion, its process through what it is we guide through ourselves every day. And it's really good because it has this red or orangish chair at the head of the table, so to speak. And really, we call that the hot seat, like who's running the show for the day. And we so supportively placed what we consider, and many consider in the world, is who would they like in their hot seat, right? And who would they like at the head of the table? And a lot of times, that's this concept called our higher self. But there's other aspects of that boardroom, right? There's an example called the unifier, how we unify our world together inside ourselves, right? The aspects of ourselves. Then there's that creative self. Then sometimes there's the judger, the doubter, the person who, that person or the aspect of us that guides us. There can also be the fearful self. And another aspect can be the ego, that part of us that really creates a sense of survival. And I gotta have, and I need to have that. And if I can't have that, I won't survive. That kind of aspect of ourselves. And then there's the fun part that I really like, is the gifted self. And what are our gifts? What do we tap into and what do we reach? And we have many other aspects of ourselves, right? That maybe sit in seats behind the main executive branch, right? The artist, right? And I don't know, it's lots of different aspects or archetypes and roles we experience inside our being that start to help us express through that vehicle called our inner guidance. Right? What's your favorite part, Annie, of the inner boardroom?
I really love the gifted self aspect because I find that to be the most rewarding, the most enriching, keeps us in the flow, right? And when that blossoms, oh my gosh, we all just feel so good. And who doesn't want the good feelings? I know I do. I'd much rather be in that state of being where life is flowing and I am expressing my talents and my gifts, because then I feel good. I don't want to be in those other seats. But I also know that if I judge those other parts of me, then I'm going to create more discord. So it's a balance. It really is a balance.
It can be.
Because you could be judging your giftedness as not being good enough.
Right. The judge could come forward and sit in the hot seat and judge that part. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about accessing your inner guidance and what that is. So when we access the inner guidance, what we do is we take in a deep breath and we really start this process of when inner guidance is accessed. How do you, Annie, relate to this part of you?
Well, over the years, I have to share that I have uh, looked outside of myself for some of that inner guidance. I would look for signs in the universe. I would consult a pendulum. I had my own form of muscle testing. I would draw a card. And then I came to realize that there was more than just that. And still to this day, I recognize that I and others still begin scanning our energy bodies when we need guidance because we're looking for information that we already know. And sometimes that is a quick way to get information by checking your database. But unfortunately, what we're really doing there is checking the past. So I've come to recognize that I must go into my own still point. I have to connect deep inside of me, and I actually connect all four of my energy bodies because they're four valuable resources to me. My physical body can be a feedback mechanism, my emotional body, my mental body, and my spiritual body. So when I tune in, I go neutral. I immediately have to let the universe answer and not me. So I have to trust that what comes is the answer I need in this moment. So I let the truth be whatever it needs to be. And that centers me. And from that space, I'm able to just go to that still point and begin listening and perceiving. And then as a result of that, I become more aware that I am a multidimensional being. And I'm not just down on the third and fourth dimension sorting for something on a linear timeline. I'm actually going into an expanded state of awareness and resourcing myself with vast amounts of knowledge and data. But it took that one conscious thought of going still, going into the center point inside myself, the still point, and making that conscious connection. So that's how I do it. And there's many ways. Everybody has their own style, but for me, I found that was very grounding, and it helped me actualize what I needed in the moment.
It's really true. And you know, when you access that inner guidance of yours that is so beautiful and so timely and so helpful, really, when you access it, what are you feeling? What are you experiencing or sensing or knowing that you've accessed it?
Definitely multidimensional, definitely expanded. I actually think I could sum it up as saying I move into my state of true nature, which is like pure formless awareness, that I'm just sensing all that is that's available for that question that I have, which does a world of good for eliminating any mental clutter, chatter, fog, and allows me to just tune in to what is present inside of me. So that feeling ends up developing into deeper states of serenity, deeper states of centeredness. There's a calm, an inner knowing. And I begin to find my sense of direction for where I need to go and when I need to go. And it seems free of ego at that point, which is noteworthy in my work as a family constellation facilitator, because that is really important that we put the ego aside and remain open in that space of non-judgment to be able to hear the answers, to be nudged in the direction that we need to go next.
Exactly. That's a beautiful, explanation and understanding about how do we invite all of you really listening here about and experiencing this process today about accessing your inner guidance. When you access your inner guidance, what do you feel? What do you notice? Well, let's dive a little deeper into these topics. They're so much fun to know that we have this in our midst, right? We have this right here. It's very simple and easy to access. And we're going to talk about what creates it being really simpler. And in this process, that one sitting at the head of the table, that's higher self. What is the higher self? And in our definition, in our focus, according to how we're guiding that inside our inner boardroom and our inner guidance, it's really the cumulative aspect of self, absence of any consciousness challenges. And so in this graphic, it's pretty cute. This is a depiction of what it is to be walking around in the physical world, littered with consciousness challenges, literally raining down on us, lightening up the big cloud of confusion. Because consciousness challenges really begin and exhibit and express themselves in the state of fear. And really, we've recognized that the state of fear comes from this idea of feeling separate from ourselves. Or, we could feel disassociated from our physical self. I certainly have represented that consciousness a lot in my life. Getting injured and having illnesses and issues. We can disassociate from our emotional self, our mental self, or even our spiritual selves. And in this process, in our boardroom can get very confused and littered with consciousness challenges, this big cloud that just like blocks all the clarity and understanding that the universe is really here to support us, connect to, and understand how to navigate through. And some of these consciousness challenges that really impact our ability to connect to our higher self. This one in our Conscious Choice Challenge 101 email library system that is so fun to access through our inner guidance when we're having issues with our inner boardroom, ourselves, or other people. This one we wanted to focus on the consciousness of manipulation and being manipulative. Right, Annie? When you feel this consciousness inside, even we can have different board members in our boardroom kind of manipulating or wanting to run the show a little bit more than maybe the clearer parts of us that are free of consciousness challenges.
Absolutely. This one is really about a fear of not getting what I want. So can you imagine you have an aspect of yourself that has a fear that I won't get what I want? And so this part goes directly to the ego and steps in, asks the ego, get me what I want. Because if I don't get it, I might die, I might not feel loved, or I might not feel safe. Go get this for me, right? And so this part is now driving the show and having the ego, badger everyone into giving us what that part wants. And so this part can create many clever ways to have control over others in order to have the upper hand in the situation. And so we want to release this because it can hold hostage other soul parts. And even if we don't use it because we have a belief that, coming from high integrity means we don't use it, we still may have done this in the past. We may have cajoled someone. We may have really used a lot of push energy to get everyone on our side or whatever it was, right? So take a moment to just release and say, I consciously release my beliefs in scarcity, because that is what really feeds manipulation, a fear that you won't get what you want. And the need to manage the outcome of what others and situations do or don't do for me.
We completely agree. And so releasing this process really opens it up and frees our inner boardroom to speak more clearly and authentically with each of the members. And here's another one. This is one of my favorite consciousness challenges, because maybe in society and social conditioning, we believe that we have a lot of distractions. And so we call this distraction consciousness. And many of us nowadays, while we're hanging out in our homes a little more than we were used to before, what happens is we tend to use multimedia, right? The phone, the tablet, the computer, drinking water, taking notes. So what are we doing? We're doing about at least 5 activities in this one graphic. And what happens is it really distorts our ability to focus. And what if the different board members can have the ability to focus all at once, 100%? So where do we actually experience distraction? I know that I experience distraction, for example, a lot less on tasks or things that I am getting done simultaneously. Where I sense that I get distracted is in my emotional body. If I have somebody in the house that has a different emotion or is running around from, that to me is very distracting because I'm so reality based, relationship based, that when that relationship is distorted or challenged, sometimes that might distract me a little bit about other people's emotions. So we can be distracted on multiple levels that we don't really maybe recognize is occurring. And what happens is when our inner boardroom is distracted, we have difficulty and challenges really connecting to that inner guidance, that higher self. Let's say we could even be distracted about some values or belief systems. Like, I don't have any time to access my higher self, to guide me through and have inner guidance, to guide me through which one of these media would I like to look at first. Maybe I'd like to get back on the computer and finish my work there. Then I have time maybe to do other things or work or have the energy really to work with other people and other things. So when we get very clear about what distracts us, we have the opportunity then to take conscious choice and change that. It's a lot of fun to release these consciousness challenges, to really experience, really, the world is our oyster. The world is a pearls of wisdom that we have access to. And when we clear our whole being, including our inner boardroom, we have the opportunity to access information, infinite information. And sometimes we go to access and we're very clear, we're undistracted, and we're free of consciousness challenges. And yet the information still may not come in that moment, right? We've all experienced that. Also, the intentions. So let's say you and I, Annie, we created an opportunity to experience and access something and create something. We made a deadline, for example. And on that deadline it came. And let's say we didn't even notice, though, that we needed 3 other parts that we didn't know through consensus that maybe some other people were involved. And so being patient with the process and opening to knowing that, all our intentions are being created. It's just maybe some overlapped, maybe some didn't coincide or collaborate with other people and other opportunities we're choosing to create simultaneously. So those are the options of really experiencing that higher self and getting clear with our consciousness challenges so that less is in the way to really connect to our higher self. Now let's talk about how inner guidance is really useful. Annie, how do you trust as you, and who do you trust as your inner guidance navigator?
Thank you for asking, because I was just reflecting on the question for the first time. And I think when I was much younger, I felt like I had to have a lot of courage to trust. And I think I didn't really know how to sort for the difference between the anxiety in my gut or the anticipation in my gut driving the truth versus, inner wisdom. And I think that's one of those things that we have to sort through from either, our early youth or teenage years. It gets a little fuzzy if we're not paying attention and staying on top of it. And so, this picture is fantastic because we have grown up in a world that has taught us to worship the ego. We have been told we have to be safe, we have to be happy, we have to be loved. And the truth is, we are already all 3 of those things. When we recognize that we are infinite beings, there is no death, there is no dying. We are love. Love cannot be changed. It's probably one of the only constants in this universe. You are love. So this false worship of the ego is just really fascinating. And I didn't realize I was doing that with, childhood PTSD, right? My ego was driving my show for so long. And when we come to recognize it for what it is, we can step back and say, oh, wait a minute. If I want to be in thrival, I've got to survival. And the ego is running the survival programs inside our body. And really, we want that ego, we want to dial down the volume from 10 to a 1. So that ego, as you mentioned earlier, can really just alert us when we might be in danger and say, hey, move your car, get out of this lane. That person's a little wobbly at the wheel, and that ego has its place, but we do have to make friends with it. We have to stop judging it. And we have to get up off this prone position to the ego and take a different perspective.
We really do. And we have an opportunity really to begin to have all these other board members stand up, sit at the table where they know that their presence matters, these other aspects of ourselves, and that all aspects of ourselves really matter. We really care. We really love them. And including the ego, and we recognize that we can actually work with all these parts in very different ways than we had once imagined before. And how other ways is our inner guidance useful? When our inner guidance is accurate, how do you feel, Anne?
Oh my gosh, there's nothing like it. There is this contentedness, this peace, this beautiful sense of being connected to all that is, connected to the universe, inside the state of flow. I feel enlightened. I feel the truth. I feel there's a surety that comes with connecting to the truth and knowing that it can be used in all the ways necessary to accomplish one's mission, purpose, and goals, right? And those mission, purpose, and goals change moment to moment, because you may be in a big, huge parking lot at the mall at the holidays going, how do I navigate out of here? Where is the exit that's moving the quickest? Because I'm late getting home to fix dinner for my kids, right? You can tune into the flow of the universe that's moving and navigate your way to the nearest exit. But you can also ask deeper questions about what's in your unconscious mind that's creating the depression. What is in the unconscious mind that's creating conflict between me and my spouse, me and my child, me and my mother, me and my boss? You have so much access. You are unlimited. That is how infinite you truly are.
Ah, that's a good feeling.
It really is.
And then also, do you consider your inner guidance separate from you? Right? Sometimes, many times, we look outside ourselves to see what's happening. So we sometimes consider our inner guidance outside of ourselves, separate from ourselves. We look at compasses, right? Pendulums, cards, crystals, rocks, different physical items that give us representation of the inner guidance that's wanting to talk to us, come through, share with us, navigate with us in the world that we're experiencing. And what we wanted to share here, though, is that these are great adjuncts. You can utilize them. I use muscle response testing sometimes when I'm having this left logical linear conversation. I may muscle test also to access different infinite knowledge points in the universe to really bring and deepen the conversation, deepen the expression, deepen the opportunity to share, way show, and guide with other people. And in that process, that allows me to have multiple states of awareness at the same time. and really get clear with the inner guidance of what it is I'd like to express, emanate, and share in the world. And so becoming aware that if we believe our inner guidance, our inner navigation system is outside of us with a license plate or someone saying something or someone doing something, that yes, those are coinciding synchronicities with others inside the intentions we set forward in our world. And those are wonderful because then we start connecting with other people's inner guidance and higher selves, right? And when we start having conversations that are far deeper than we ever experienced or knew we could. But we want to consider when we feel that our inner guidance is separate from us, because then we can recognize and we can amalgamate that and then breathe that in and know that we're never separate from our inner guidance and our higher self.
And using tools is enhanced when you're connected first to your inner guidance.
Yes.
They're even more efficient.
And we wanted to share for just a moment about clearing the confusion about our inner guidance and our higher self. Sometimes we can experience that. And in this case, really, I wanted to say, who's who in the boardroom? Like, there are moments that I have sometimes in my environments, my clinical environments in the hospital, and I'm like, who's who? Who's talking? What's going on? And where would I like to be guided? Where would I like to be supported? Where would I like to be supportive in my environment? And a lot of times I notice if it's my ego talking or my fearful self and worried and anxious and I'm running around, a lot of times I'll make decisions from that space of being in fear. And really what I want to do is, even in a chaotic environment, I want to take a deep breath in. I want to recenter myself and reconnect to that higher self. Because that higher self will utilize all the boardroom members to actually bring in all the data that we need to produce and express in our world.
You know, I love this photo that you chose for this slide because you can see that there's this division of the two main parts, and maybe that's ego and maybe that's higher self, opposing views, strong opposing views. But you may also notice that there's all these side conversations going on. And as a family constellation facilitator, I have set up parts, soul parts, aspects of self for a person to explore and have conversation to find out who's really creating the conflict and the problems and what is this part resisting. So you can have multiple sources of discord going on in your internal conversation, which you may not be aware of, right? Some people are very aware of the conversation, the little radio station in their head at all times that is an ongoing running judgment programming. But on the unconscious level, there are parts that really are acting like the Hatfields and McCoys. They're just going at it constantly. And they have not healed the judgments, the internal self-judgments against other parts that did things to them. So imagine if, you're on a diet and you really want to feel good about your body, but you really don't like your boss. So on the way to work, you stop into your favorite coffee shop and get a donut and a coffee. And really, you have parts that are at odds with each other. You have a part that says, I don't want to be going to this job, with a part that says, I want to be healthy. But the part that doesn't want to be going to the job is more in control and is making bad choices to assuage, to go into coping for the conflict that it's not dealing with. It's in avoidance mode. So we can have all kinds of stuff going on in the background we're not even aware of, which is why inner guidance is the leader of the pack. Inner guidance brings the clarity that you need to get out of these internal civil wars, these internal conflicts that are going on that create separation inside yourself with all your parts. So when we unify ourselves and our whole, that whole self needs that inner guidance to lead the way and be the clear voice, the CEO, the chief energy officer, because that higher self is going to be the last one in that boardroom to make self-judgments. And that one has the ability to rise above, remember your true nature of love, and bring you to that space where you can feel peace, clarity of mind and vision, and know where to go at your next steps.
That's beautiful. Another confusions that we have sometimes is, who do we choose, right, as the designee for being the CEO? I call it the Chief Energy Officer of your inner boardroom, right? And so what it is we want to create this illustration, this visualization inside you, that really the higher self is the one where we want to funnel all the information, the past experiences, the energy through, so that that's like this clear channel to accessing infinite knowledge, to accessing inner guidance, to really share with the world who you authentically and beautifully are, is your true nature, which is love, manifest in all these different ways of sharing in our physical world. And once clear, now choose to relate to your boardroom members as your inner resources. Right? So anyway, when we go back to this inner boardroom concept and we determine who's who at the main seats of the boardroom table, how will we navigate communication between these parts of ourselves? Right? Who will we make or create or choose to be at the head of the table? And how will we start to begin to talk, communicate, and work with one another to really create this inner experience that's cohesive, that flows together, that synergizes, and has an opportunity? Even when the fearful self says, I have a fear, I have an uncomfortable emotion, and it's terrible, and let's work on that, right? And so then the higher self, the gifted self, other parts of ourself say, we understand how you feel, we're here to support you, you are love, we are love, we are one with each other, we're not separate from each other, even though that part of us feels really terrible. And what if that feeling terrible can be really accepted and move into this sense of surrender and say, yes, this is a terrible situation. It's not working. It literally lights the fire underneath the executive table to get moving, change, create change. And we can do it from this peaceful, centered, higher self aspect, rather than trying to solve the problem inside the fear. So these are ways in which we can work with our inner boardroom to really make fantastic changes and opportunities in our lives. So sometimes we experience challenges, though, when we go through all these processes to really become in alignment with our inner boardroom. And so some of the challenges can be when we access our inner guidance, what state of being are we in, right? So the state of being I like to be in when I'm accessing my inner guidance, when I'm accessing my higher self to express itself every day, is I really breathe in this concept called soliloquy in peace. And I literally choose to be in peace and create an inner monologue. Now, how do we create that peace naturally, organically, simply without demanding it or pushing it, or even grabbing a crystal to support being in peace? What we recognize is it's all inside of ourselves. And when we're not in peace, what's happening is we have consciousness challenges. Somewhere in that inner boardroom, inside going on, we have a challenge. We have a demand, we have an expectation, we have a manipulation, we have a distraction, we have something going on that's preventing us from naturally experiencing that peace. So I recognize it and I go in and I say, okay, who's who in the zoo and who's got the consciousness challenge? It's okay. and I conflict resolve it, it organically moves me to peace, organically, easily. And now when I'm standing in peace, I go, oh, this is so cool. I've got peace, even though I want to solve a problem. I want to access my inner guidance. And what I do is I create a soliloquy. So that's a monologue. What monologue would I like to have for today? What would I like to do to address these challenges that I experience in my outside world? And so those are some of the ways that we can have challenges to prevent us from accessing naturally peace. So again, these consciousness challenges really inhibit us from accessing our inner peace. Right, Annie?
This is a great one because we often don't recognize that we're moving into a state of being self-righteous when we perceive that we're right and the other person's wrong and that the other person needs fixing. Correction is an addiction. And when we don't take the other person's perspective, when we fail to take their perspective, we are coming from arrogance. And love is not arrogant. Love always considers the other person's perspective. So this is a consciousness challenge that can really get in the way of connecting to our inner guidance. So we consciously release our judgment that I know better than you, and I open to experience your perspective or point of view. And I now choose to have compassion without judgment for the situation or the person involved in order to see the big picture.
You got it. Right? Wow. When we move these two, right, arrogance and self-righteousness out of our field, wow, the energy just, you can see it, you can feel it, you know it just opens. And it allows for so much more possibility and potential to open up.
Yes.
We found another one too, didn't we? It was amazing. We call this one benevolence versus benevolence. This one's, many people are challenged to actually connect to this concept. They're like, what does this mean?
I'm like, it's good person versus good person.
It is. It really is. And I'm good. I'm better than you. I am more light than you. I'm more right than you. I know things more than you. I'm more advanced. My frequency's higher. All of this sort of stuff.
Exactly.
And really where we find this buried, right, is in religious indoctrination. And we recognize this, right, inside. My religion is more important than yours. My God is higher than your God. All of this sort of stuff. And what we recognized is when we are blaming, when we are comparing, when we are disassociating from one another, we really do dampen the ability to relate with one another. And we, inside of that, we really break down and wreck relationships. Wars were caused from this. On all different levels and all different spaces of our life, we have these kinds of issues, and we can even bring it home. Like, I'm more benevolent than you because I took out the trash and you didn't, right? It can be as simple as that. And we can do it in our work environments. We can do it with our colleagues. We can do it with our friends, everywhere. So we support you in noticing where you may feel more benevolent or more right or more better than somebody else. Because when we bring in this consciousness into the relating, it truly bottoms it out. It wrecks it from moving forward. And even when we access our inner guidance to help that relating get better, we end up deflating and hurting the other person. Or we accepted that we're smaller and our presence doesn't matter and they're bigger and they're more important than we are. And we end up really causing a whole lot of rifts and problems in our society. The other challenge that we have when we experience and access our inner boardroom and our inner guidance is, boy, this one's just so prevalent throughout the whole world, is the need to seek proof in order
to know it's working. I need to know I'm connected. I need to know that I got the right answer. I need to be right. because otherwise we're going to make wrong or other consciousness challenges. But
We
evidence
sure do, right?
it's pretty straightforward. It's like, my goal cannot be completed unless someone else proves to me that it is possible. So this is one of those self-limiting belief aspects of proof. I consciously release my judgment that I need evidence before I can trust or have faith to complete my goal. I release my fear that I could be blamed for being wrong. I choose now to be the proof that I seek. Oh,
And
my
really the
favorite.
last one that we find so funny and fascinating, because we find that all of us have some level of this at some time in our lives. And it really is this attachments to outcome, right? When we tell our inner guidance what we want and how to do it. And this picture, right, is so famous in the opportunity as we're listening. What does our inner guidance tell us? But our inner guidance and the different aspects of that inner boardroom, right, may have different opinions, may even be in conflict with one another. But what it renders is it really helps us to get radically confused about how to experience our inner guidance. And so what we really want to do is let go of the attachments to the outcome of what it's experiencing and really open and say, I open to understanding what's occurring here. And then a lot of the bits and pieces will start to come in very naturally. It'll flow very easily, and you'll be able to understand your inner guidance much more clearly than when you say, I need this done right now, or I need this person fixed right now. And a lot of times when we do that, we shut down the listening to our inner guidance in our boardroom, and we stay confused. So here we want to share with everyone really fantastic processes that we have gathered together to support you with deepening the relationship with your inner guidance.
So we welcome you to enroll in our remote transmission energy healing program. We have created every single episode to match the meditation at night on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. your time. So when you're ready to enroll, we recommend you go back and get a subscription to Awake TV so that every Wednesday or the Tuesday before, you can connect with the contextual focus of each week's episode, because it will match the remote transmission that you're going to receive. And as you meditate, you get to deepen your understanding of these concepts as Ashley and I, two advanced energy healers, support you in releasing your consciousness challenges, to open up your awareness, to gain clarity, to release the fog. A lot of this ends up having beautiful brain and nervous system enhancements that come with it as the energies move out of your physical body, because we hold stuff in our meridians, our nervous system, through our proprioceptors, and they block the energy flow. So Ashley and I support the release of these discordant energies while you meditate, which improves your overall health and well-being and holds that space for you to make that connection to your inner guidance. So we encourage you to join us and make a powerful transformation and change the way you relate on the inside with your inner boardroom. Thank you so much for joining Ashley and I today. We really look forward to doing these shows for you to deepen your knowledge and your abilities to do self-healing and self-mastery. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for joining us.